and they feel really passionately about good recruitment, as we all do. So without further ado, I'll let them come to the floor. She is coming.
Thank you very much, everybody, coming here today to listen to us. Last night, when we were at the party, I realised that quite a few people didn't understand what the actual setup was here. So, just for anybody that's come this morning might not know, just run through it. So, in this building, we have 3 sister companies. We've got the viewing facilities, Aspect Viewing Facility, and the Pioneer Suite. We don't just use this for partying. We do all sorts of things here. People on computers, doing web usability. We have the BBC here one day, their education department. They rang me up and said, do you know anywhere, it's a bit of a strange request, where there's a big tall room because we want to build a dinosaur? Well, funnily enough, I do know one. So this is a really good area for multi-purpose activities. Then we've got Academy Fieldwork, who've organised this conference. And then we've got research opinions. So as Abby said, we're the recruitment arm. So we recruit Acumen's jobs in the Northwest. We do recruitment for lots of other people across the country when there's a Northwest element. And then we also do things like customers list jobs, which can be anywhere in the country. And we do a lot of B2B, which can be anywhere in the country. What else have we done? Education as well. Again, and that's anywhere in the country. So that's how we're all set up. So my job is qualitative manager, so I look after all the qualitative projects. And Vic.
My name's Vic. I am the project manager, and I organise the new projects that come in. And I also run the phone unit, our telephone unit, that specialise really in doing sample recruitment. So any sort of customer lists, taxi, anything like that.
Yeah. So we're going to both present today, and it's talking about the future as we see of recruitment. So where we've come from since we've been in recruitment, and where we think we're heading to, or perhaps not. So if there is no future recruitment, we plan to set up as a comedy duo. So plenty of that, please, and come practice a few jokes. So today we're going to look from the recruiter's point of view. I know this is a bit novel, and I don't think I've ever been to anything where I've actually heard recruiters speak. So a bit novel thing. And we're looking at projects we're recruiting at the moment, the trends and patterns that we're seeing coming through. And I know that Vipul and Rai are going to be looking afterwards from the same sort of thing, but from a fieldwork point of view. So I think it'll be quite interesting to see what we've got that's similar and what's different.
Yeah, we're going to look at the methods and processes and the day-to-day practices that we're developing to get the best possible respondents for you.
Now, before I start this session, I would like to say that it's going to be conducted in accordance with the market research code of conduct, give you their free phone number, or their website. Don't think I've only ever given it to one person. Or their website to verify our company. Not quite sure what the MRI said for recruiters, but cynicism is a bit early in this part of the speech, so we'll put that to one side. But it's very comforting for the respondents. Now, respondents do a great job in Alvin, isn't it? Absolutely fantastic. Some of us here that I do work for, they've driven us crazy over the past few years. Absolutely crazy. Well, I think a lot of it's because respondents don't understand anything about market research. I think we've got a bit of an education issue here about the public and what they understand about market research. We'll come on to that a little bit later. So, as I say, we've done work quite a lot of people here. I'm going to refer to perhaps some projects as we go along. I've changed the names of the people to protect the innocent. But see you looking at the ground, you might point to it. Right, so.
History of Julie Fuller.
You can, yes. So
it's just to let you know that Julie, actually, Julie Fuller over there, set up Julie Fuller Recruitment in 1987, so 25 years ago.
Oh my God.
Now, in 2010, we decided that we were sick of everybody phoning us up and calling us Julie. Like, five was in the office, it was like, so Julie's phoned me. So we decided to change to research opinions. Also, we did have a problem, because it was Julie Fuller Recruitment, everybody thought we were a recruitment company. So we had people phone up saying, my boss has gone mental, like, I phoned up and I'm not like, who do you think I'm being headhunted? So that's why we're changing. Research opinions is just a, even though we call it research options, it's just the best name really. helps with our brand with the company and takes that to the arena.
Yeah, so I started in 2006. I've no knowledge of market research at all. I thought it was a bit of a secret society, a bit like the Masons, and you never get into it. I think a lot of people still got that sort of view of market research, not quite sure what it's about. We were talking yesterday, Sam was talking about hidden persuaders, and I still think there's still that sort of view of it. It's people persuading people to do things that they don't want to do. And I was a bit tricked into coming, because I'm sure that what Julie said to me was, now I've got this job, and it's all about, you need to get women, typical project, who eat biscuits, they shop at Tesco, that's it. Now, it was a crafty line, so she might not actually have said that. But it never has actually been that easy. None of the projects we have had that easy anyway. But I think over 6 years, we've been seeing a big movement. I know since I've been here, it's been a massive movement. And I think the pace of change of what we've been asked to get is increasing really quickly now. And it's all the fault of technology. That's the problem that we've got. So technology is a big opportunity for us, but it's also throwing up a lot of issues and things that we're trying to recruit. So the first project I ever came across here was September 2006. I came into the office and we're recruiting for a BBC audience festival. It was down in London. And a big part of this festival was getting people's views on the launch of the iPlayer, which eventually came out on 25th December 2007. Now, at that time, I thought it was going to be the death of scheduled TV, which I think is only really just coming in. And also, it'd be the last edition, the Christmas edition of the Radio Times. And so, during that project, after we'd done it, we got quite a lot of things coming in, looking for people who used BBC iPlayer. And it took us about 2 years before we actually managed to get groups together. So ring people up, they hadn't got a clue. And I think we personally launched iPlayer because we told more people about it than the BBC did. But it's quite interesting, 6 years how that's changed, and everybody's on catch-up TV now. That's it. And that was such a new concept, and how quickly that has actually come in. So, in 2006...
Yeah, in 2006, how many projects do you think we had that had an online element? Now, I'm aware you don't know how many projects we did in 2006. But we only had 7 projects. That had anything like an online blog or a pre-task or anything like that. Now, so far this year, we've done over 100 projects with an online element. So that's now we have to do is, again, online blogs, webinars, uploading videos, just anything that people have to do online. And often, before people even go along to a focus group, there's like an ethnographical part of it that they need to do before they come along, because they've already done a blog or something for a few weeks.
So from 2006, we've seen this build-up of the online element of things. In 2006, fieldworkers would bring us up and say, we've got a project for you. It's got an online element. Are you used to dealing with online? This is spoken in capitals. It's online. Okay, yeah, I'll go through it again. It's online. Right? So, yeah, that's fine. We'll manage that. But the online element then was really more people typing things into a computer. It wasn't really interactive as we know it now. It was typing more than anything. And I don't think it's really until about 2010 that we started seeing we've got a tipping point of the use of technology and using it in market research. And I still don't think we know quite where we're going with that. And technology, obviously, it produces a lot of solutions where there actually aren't any problems. You see what I mean? It's not a solution for something. The client knows that we can do something technological-wise, and that is brilliant, because they can say to the board, yes, and we're doing this with the respondents. We'll make an app, we'll get somebody to develop an app, we'll put it on the iPhone, they'll be able to use it. Bingo, we're done. No, we know about this, don't we? We do. So somebody obviously let the cat out of the bag to clients that we can now do this sort of thing. I don't know who it was not important right again. So the 3 things that started coming together were broadband. That's the first thing. Because until 2010, we didn't have the speed of it, and we didn't have the mobility of it. And that's been a big thing now, because people can do things quickly. We're uploading, downloading, all the rest of it. Not got that terrible delay on everything. And then we get the iPhone 4 and similar smartphones. again, that's about 2010 when they start coming in. So the broadband is feeding into that technology so that people can use it quickly and it's portable. And the third thing, I think, and the thing that really took off, and that was a bit earlier, back 2007, is Facebook. And that has had massive implications for the market research industry. And it just means that people under 30, it's just a fact of life. People are used now to publishing themselves. They publish their life story on things. It doesn't matter, whereas an older generation, a bit wary of that, don't like doing it. But now we've got this complete barriers breaking down. So what we're seeing coming through is we've got the technology, with broadband, we've got the application of it on things like the iPhone, but more importantly, we've got the willingness of people to take it on board. They don't mind doing it anymore. And that's a different thing. Now, how we know that technology has changed is by what stops happening somewhere else in the industry. And the big thing for us was we stopped getting something through the post. Has anybody got any idea what could stop coming through the post to us? We used to get it at least once a fortnight.
And post them out to respondents to use.
Yeah, there's a physical pre-task, but something that came with it. See, you've all forgotten it already. Disposable cameras. A disposable camera. Now, I hope some people are thinking, oh shit, I still send out a disposable camera. Last time we had disposable cameras was when we moved into this building, which was August 2010, and we haven't seen one come through.
No, we used to get loads of them.
Yeah. So, and all that, you've got your cameras, your camera arrived, put it in the post, it's not arrived, go to Boots, buy a camera. Of course, go and have it printed out, bring things to the focus group. All that's gone because people are sending things before they actually arrive. So, in practice for us, what does this mean? So, Vic, what have we seen happening? What we're looking at is the ethnography.
Yeah, basically. So as we were saying before, that now we're finding that there's almost always an ethnographical element to any research. So I did say this earlier, sorry, but just to sort of repeat that, before people do come onto a group, they often have to do something before they come along, and then afterwards they might have to do something else. And it's mainly because the clients now, they don't need to take the respondent out of their life and bring them to a focus group. They're now thinking, well, we don't have to do that, we can just go visit them and see their life as it is. So it's just delving into their lives, and it just makes it, I think we can see a lot more about the person rather than taking them out of their environment. It's increasingly more prominent, the divide, that's just increasingly more prominent. And also the divide between research and fieldwork companies embracing this is a big thing, because some people just, everything they do is sort of technology based, and other people don't use that at all, and still use like paper pre-tasks.
So we are seeing the big divide now, as Vic said. Some people, everything we get through has got a technological element, and some people, there's still nothing. It's all paper, collages being made and taken along to a focus group, whereas other people are, go on Facebook, get as many images as you can, send it through to us before the group. We want it at least a fortnight before the group so we can assess it. But there is masses and masses of data being produced through all these things, absolutely masses. And I think I'm going back to what Catherine was saying yesterday morning, for those who were here, about the co-creation element. I think in a mini sort of way it's creeping in, but I don't think people quite know what they're doing with it yet, because there is all this ethnographical stuff. What people are doing with it, I'm not quite sure. Perhaps some of you will be able to enlighten us afterwards. But what it means in practice is that respondents that we are getting, that we need to get to the industry, they're more niche, and the pot we've got to get to is narrower and narrower. Because now, if you've got a group, if people have got to have a Dyson, what you do is they want people to photograph themselves or video themselves using the Dyson before they go along. Now it's blatantly obvious in that video, if they're using a Vax or a Hoover or anything else, it's just not going to cut. So people have got to be absolutely perfect, more than perfect for the group. So that's what we're faced with. So we're going to ask your help now to do a bit of activity in recruitment. Okay. Now, in a few minutes, I'm going to ask you all to stand up. Not yet, hang on a minute. And do an activity, just to show how recruitment looks actually in practice.
Right, okay. Are you going to want me to stand up then?
No, you're
Right, okay, so I want you to think about your lifestyle and the technology that you use day to day. So not that somebody in your household might use, what you use yourself. So if you'd all like to stand up. Right, so what I want you to do, if you've got this, then I want you to stay stood up, and if you haven't got this, then I want you to sit down. Does that make sense, everyone? Right, so first of all, Wi-Fi.
Oh, that's good, everybody's got
No?
it.
People got it? Right, a smartphone, so iPhone, BlackBerry, HTC. Really?
Fax machine for two-tasking for work.
Okay, a tablet. So that's iPad. I would have thought. Okay, pay TV, so that's Sky, Virgin, anything you pay for. No, no, you can't stop that. Okay, HD TV package, so not just that you've got HD TV, but you've actually got a package to pay extra for. Okay, a smart TV, so that's an internet-enabled TV. What if we get one or two? No, sit down.
You can't get on the group. It's not talking about next week. It's talking about now. No, I've told you before when you ring up. I'll get you on a group.
An Xbox. Ooh. And connect with Xbox Gold.
That's the first killer.
So,
We've got two people to look.
We live together, so.
so same household, we're not counting that person.
What time is that group?
Any working market research. Okay, so that's absolutely fantastic. I think you're going to fit the group. Now, just forgot to ask, have you got any children under 10?
No.
So, right, recognise that particular project.
Aha, we really hope you are.
Payback time for that project. So, but there you go. Those are people who are likely to have that sort of thing. Now, that's a bit of a cheat, really, because obviously we would have done the demographic first. We'd have found out what children people have first, and then we've gone to questions. But it just goes to show, in a target audience where people are in the absolute, market research, technology, advertising, that not one of you is standing up at the end of that. Okay. So what we need to do is look now at the methods we've got to get these people, because we've still got to get them. The projects are going to go away. The clients are going to get more demanding. We've got to think of ways where we can actually get them. So over the 6 years, we've been developing our methods of how we're going to get them. Let's go have a run through of what we've done now.
Yeah, so what we did was in 2006, because that's our key year, we developed, we decided to develop a database. We already had one, but it was going to be a super database with a super search. And got the IT company in, and they said, no problem, we'll do it for you in 6 weeks, which was great. So 18 months later, we got our new database. And basically enables us to do like super search. So if I want to search on a female, BC1, aged 25 to 35, with 2 children aged 3 to 6, none older, none younger, with a Halifax bank account and, I don't know, 1 leg. We search on that last one's a joke. But everything else we search on. We can also search on when they last did market research. So if you say I don't want to ever done research before, then we can search on that. All respondents are linked to projects on our database, so we can see like if they've ever done research before. And it's also, our database is linked to our website, and on there we list projects that we've got coming up. It's also, again, that's linked to Facebook and Twitter. So as soon as we update the website, it goes straight onto Facebook and Twitter, and then basically people can just apply for groups. We obviously filter this, we don't just let people do apply for groups that have done things like the day before, but because we do log what they do, we don't recruit them. They don't get recruited. And also we do keep an eye on repeat and fraudulent respondents. I know that in London it is a big issue with fraudulent respondents. It's not so much in Manchester, but it is something that we keep an eye on. And we often cleanse the data, and we can do duplicate searches and things like that. We do, because things are increasingly more difficult, and we do a lot of education projects and B2B. We use things like yell.com, Gumtree, Schools Web Directory, again Facebook and Twitter, to recruit people to groups. We don't give away any information at all. We'll just say, like, we might have a market research group about technology, and this is the time, and it's going to be held in this postcode, and this is how much you get paid, and then we still have to screen them, but that's initially how we get them.
But we have got a bit of an issue because we're having a lot of things coming back from the fieldwork companies now saying, in capitals, you must not use a social networking site to recruit. When we get this, we have to think and say, well, actually, this is one of the things that we do use, and we wouldn't be able to get some of these people now because they are so niche without being able to spread the net as wide as we possibly can. Now, obviously, using social network throws up all the ideas of the things with, false identities, people lying, all sorts of things, but we just have to monitor that through our normal processes. But I don't think without the use of these things now, we'd actually be able to recruit it.
Many people don't even have email addresses now, they just have Facebook accounts.
Yeah.
So, getting to these people.
Yeah. And I do think to get some people like the traditional C2, D and E socio-economic grades, this is where you get them, because previously we had terrible trouble getting those grades because they're not people sitting in offices on an email. Those people are easy to get. We've got them, millions of them on our database. We could just turn them away. We don't want it anymore like that. But those are the people that are on Facebook, they're on Twitter, they're using the social networking sites, and that's how we can actually now get them, because that's where they live. They live in cyberspace. We don't have to walk the streets of Levenshulme. Thank God. That's what we get. So it is throwing some things up, and I don't know quite where market research is taking people down this journey and where we want to take them. So there's lots and lots of issues being thrown up about just using the use of technology, both for recruiting people and for actually using it for market research. So loads and loads of things coming up there. So has anyone got any questions before I just sort of finish this bit off? Yeah.
Data protection with all the names you're getting in, I assume you've got to pay for some sort of licence to have this?
Well, for data protection, and we've got John who will see about to be able to explain our data protection policy. Here it is at the back. We did go to an NRS, it's an IQCS funded event last year, and it was all about data protection. John and I went, we came back scared to death, absolutely scared to death about it.
We are covered by the data protection.
Yeah, we are. We are listed at the Information Commissioner's Office as under the Data Protection Act. And obviously we've got our IQCS and our ISO, and that's very heavily based on data protection, and we have to pass quite a lot of things to make sure that we've got people's permissions and the things that we hold about them correct. And that's why if anybody wants to come on our database, they have to register through our website, because we need to know that they have registered, that we've not got their details, and we can't keep details of people. Say if we do a list job, the client sends a list, that has to be deleted. I think within 60 days, we have to not just delete it of our system, but it's still sitting there. John has to run a program to finally get rid of it. Just what techie people do. I'm not sure what it is, but it's finally gone. So there are a lot of issues around data protection. And we had an incident only a couple of days ago, because all our profiles are now sent encrypted. So everything that goes out from our server is password protected. And I had a fieldwork agency say, you keep sending these things password protected, don't worry about it, we've got a really secure server. So can you encrypt it? I said, no, sorry, I can't. That's the danger zone when it's out there in the middle of nowhere. That's when the problem is. So, yeah, we have to jump through a lot of hoops now for data protection. Anybody else?
I'd like to ask actually.
You get your own back.
Just on that point, with regards to password protection and encryption, we sometimes get requests when we have clients who are working on iPads and smartphones and they're downloading, and because we've had an update, there's been a change with the recruitment or somebody's dropped out and there's a replacement, and they say, can you send it to me unencrypted because I'm on my iPad
Yeah.
and I'm at the facility.
Yeah.
I mean, for us, that's not really an issue because we would have to send it through to your smartphone, so we would just send it through to the facility. I don't know, I mean, we have to password protect it, we have to send them through a separate email with password on it. And unfortunately, it's not really our problem how somebody opens it, it's more, we've got to set it is our problem obviously, but we need to make sure that we're protecting our respondents and we can't just send them through.
Yeah. But I know it's difficult when she's client.
Yeah.
Like this was our
Send it
client.
through.
But we
Yeah.
send you and say that, sorry,
Yeah.
sorry, can't open it on that. But
Yeah.
send it to the facility or
Yeah.
another way.
Or you could always say we can send you just through like the first name. You know, you don't need all those other details, which is the only the name.
Yeah. Yeah. So anybody else got any questions? No? So just to summarise then, so what we think the future for recruitment is. Now for online things, a lot of fieldwork companies now have their own panels. I think Vipul's going to talk about that in a moment. I think we will see the end of a one-person setup for recruitment. I don't see how people without the range of respondents, the means of getting them, can keep going and getting things so narrow and so specific and so hard to get. And the specifications are just so detailed that we get through now. Hopefully there'll still be need for recruiters such as us. I hope so. I hope we don't have to come but I think going forward we do need more of a partnership between recruiters and researchers and field workers, because as Margaret's talking about now, the communication, trying to explain some of these projects and the detailed nature of them is really difficult. It's so easy to get the wrong end of the stick with them, and so the communication methods and the partnership needs to be a lot greater than we have seen. And I think there's a lot of education around the public as well, because Kath again was talking yesterday about co-creation, getting people in. People don't know what market research is about. And considering that we work in an industry that's all about marketing and advertising, the general public don't seem to know very much about it. So it's quite strange, really. So that's it. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Wendy, and thanks, Vic. I think there'll always be a need for good recruitment. Our next shorter session this morning will be Vipul and Rai from Field Initiatives. I saw them present this at the Insight Show back in June, and it was really, really insightful, and I hope you really, really enjoy it. Over to you.
Good morning, everybody. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to the research group for organising this event, allowing us the opportunity for us to meet up here, giving us the opportunity to speak to each other in terms of what we face on a daily basis, what the client demands are, and how we deal with recruiters and so on. So thank you for the opportunity. It's very much appreciated. Our paper actually follows on quite closely to what Wendy and Rick have just talked about, but from a fieldwork agency perspective in a way. It's titled From the Cottage Industry to the Digital Age and the Chasing Face of Qualitative Recruitment. The research industry has changed significantly over the years, especially with the advances of the digital and online technologies. Research methodologies have changed significantly, quantitative recruitment has changed, and quantitative interviewing has changed significantly. I don't think that should say recruitment, but there you are. We are doing a lot more things online, like online surveys, mobile surveys, online focus groups, bulletin boards, online pre-tasks. But the question is, well, what about qualitative recruitment? Has this really kept pace with the rest of the research industry, or are we still operating in a cottage industry? And I think our simple answer to that, yes, it has changed, but to what level? But before we explore this, let's go back and see where we have come from. Qualitative research industry, qualitative research in effect developed on the back of quantitative interviewing in the days when our interviews used to regularly go out on the street with their clipboards and interview people on the street. At that stage, they were asked to try and record details of people that they met and they came across in order to see if we can recruit them for qualitative research. And once they started to do this, research industry started to approach recruiters about putting together focus groups. At that stage, the qualifying criteria tended to be generally straightforward. It tended to be things like age, gender, social grade, possibly a few qualifying criteria in terms of the products that they might use. SCGs, social grading, was an important quota control at this stage. For example, at that stage it was based on the occupation of the head of the household, or as many recruiters used to put it, what the man of the house did at that time. However, as we now know, this has now changed to the chief income earner to reflect the changing society that we're living in at the moment. It was quite interesting because we had an interesting anecdote from our interviews that we spoke to when we were researching the paper. They said initially, in its infancy, qualitative recruitment was recruiters used to go out in the field and recruit respondents on the basis of their neck curtains. And I thought, wow, how do that? So, in effect, what recruiters were doing were using neck curtains as a guide, as a visual cue. So if you had white, pristine neck curtains, you were probably an AB social grade. If your curtains were slightly tacky looking, you might be a C2D. Probably if you had no neck curtains, you were very tacky looking neck curtains, you're probably a D or E. What they were doing here was trying to use visual cues. I mean, the industry wasn't well defined as it is now. So they were using the best tools that they had available to them to try and recruit the right level, right type of respondents. And to be honest, we still use visual cues today. I mean, one of our clients who's a leading brand of clothing manufacturer and retailer, they basically insist that all their recruitment is done in store, because it's not just about getting the right person on paper, but it's actually about the respondent looking the part when they attend the research. So what are the demands placed on, what were the demands placed on respondents initially? Again, an interesting concept that we came across when we were speaking to people about the paper. One interview told us about the first time when they actually handed out a shopping basket of goods for people to try at home before they actually attended the research. And this was considered like, one of the wow factors, incredibly innovative at the time. Now, if you think about what sort of pre-task and post-tasks and online tasks we get respondents to do nowadays, it's a world apart from back then. Green facilities, well, initially these were few and far between. The green facilities really came to prominence in the late 80s because I think initially what happened was clients weren't really that keen on research, or they weren't that interested. But as green facilities started to grow, there was more demand from clients to view research. There were more stakeholders within organisations that were interested to find out what were actually people saying, what were the consumer demands. And like we saw yesterday when Kath spoke about co-creation, this has been taken to a totally new level where the clients actually want to be in the workshops with the respondents, actually discussing the products and developing products with them. So you can see it's come a lot further since then. Right, everybody wants to know about this, don't they? Repeat attendance. Well, this issue really came to the fore in the late 80s. And it was the subject of the best MRS paper in 1990. And the title of that paper was We'll Meet Again. Attendance at group discussions doesn't matter. What were the conclusions of this paper that won the best paper? Well, it concluded that no more than 2 virgin respondents are ideal in a group. It said that there should be there should be a 6-month interval between groups for respondents before they attend another group. And there should be a maximum 3-year usage. So basically, a respondent should be allowed to attend 6 groups in that 3-year period before they should be given a compulsory break of 5 years, if not more. And another further recommendation by the paper was that a respondent should never be allowed to attend a group that, on a similar subject that they have already attended in the past. Because in fact all they're going to do is recycle all that information they got in the last group, in this current group, and in effect try and contaminate it. We thought, I mean, obviously the facts about this paper would be of interest to you, because at the end of the day this issue is still of relevance today, and we still face it in our daily jobs as fieldwork agencies, recruiters and so on.
So now that we've had a quick look at the background to our industry, let's look at the present day. Sorry, I just skipped forward about 3 slides. Okay, so here's the digital landscape. So what are the challenges that we face now in 2012? Highly sophisticated consumer segmentations run through the heart of many of our clients' businesses, as this helps them to avoid the one-size-fits-all approach to targeting and talking to their consumers. So more and more often these days, we'll hear from our clients, we'll send you the algorithm. What in the past was 3 or 4 basic screening criteria, such as age, gender, social grade, and product or brand usage, has now become highly complex recruitment questionnaires, in some cases rivaling those of product questionnaires. On top of this, we have the ever more demanding clients that you all know about. They want continuous and instant updates on the recruitment process throughout. So what solutions do we have to this using technology in recruitment? PDAs and iPads have helped us to move on from the long and challenging process that used to be segmentation-based recruitment. We can now script recruitment screeners, which means that highly complex quota combinations can be predetermined in a background script, and therefore this removes the need to kind of work out on the fly whether respondents are suitable for research or not. Furthermore, this may serve to reduce interviewer bias, and it's also more efficient and a quicker way of recruiting once the script is produced. Furthermore, portable devices have allowed us to produce instant and detailed profile updates from the field for our clients. Whether they're out on the field recruiting or in the store recruiting, they can produce these profile sheets and send to clients instantly. So what about the recruiters themselves? A key shift in recent times has been towards using electronic databases and email. Many of our recruiters are now armed with substantial electronic databases which they're constantly growing all the time in their areas. They may do this through schemes on Facebook or Twitter or Mumsnet, or they may do flyers in local papers, or of course the classic word of mouth to grow their databases. The benefit of email, as you all know, is that you can email large amounts of people at one go, so you don't need to call each person individually and speak to them to find the respondents. We spoke to our recruiters earlier this year at our recruiter workshop, and they said that while they accept that their role has changed, they also accept that it will continue to change as we progress forwards, and more of their processes will involve online. This will allow for better project management and a more transparent, collaborative and fluid approach to the qualitative research process that can get the clients much more involved than ever before. What about maximising respondent engagement and involvement? No one can deny that these days we expect a lot more of respondents than we ever used to. For example, while creative tasks have been part of the research industry for a long time, as you all know, they have now become more engaged and multi-part and multi-function. For example, it's now common to expect respondents to complete multiple tasks in the run-up to or after research sessions, such as MMS feeds, blogs, food diaries, creative scripts, creative collages, and so on. The list goes on. So therefore, we know that it's increasingly important to brief respondents incredibly clearly so they know what they're doing and don't get overloaded. And therefore, you need to strike a fine balance between being thorough with your respondents and overloading them, confusing them, or worse still, misleading them. Therefore, we feel that Mediums such as using Skype conversations or other video briefings are a fantastic way to brief respondents so that they're absolutely clear on what they're doing. And this discursive environment allows for two-way feedback. So if they have any questions or problems with the task you're setting them, they can lay it out then and there and get any problems ironed out. We increasingly believe it's relevant to brief respondents in a medium that's the same as the one of the task you're asking them to complete, so that you know they've got the technological abilities to do the things you're asking them to do. Furthermore, putting tasks online has the very real benefit of being able to keep on track of in real time whether respondents have started or finished a created task, and therefore whether an element of rebriefing or even re-recruitment may be necessary before the time comes around to the research session. A private bulletin board or Facebook group has the very practical benefit of being able to allow respondents who are perhaps doing a difficult or lengthy pre-task or post-task to be able to group together with other respondents in similar situations and ask advice or to ask us for advice. These sorts of initiatives that we use help to enrich research findings by not just having point of contact with the respondents at the point of moderation and recruitment, but throughout the process, and can keep the discussion going after the research takes place.
Right. Okay, so what the power of online, what do we mean by the power of online? Online recruitment has a fantastic way of broadening the number of respondents that are available to you. Not only does it broaden the pool of respondents, but also broadens the different type of respondents. There are certain type of respondents that you're best to communicate with online, or things like Facebook, Twitter, and so on. You might be able to engage some of these types of people in research, trying to recruit them traditionally. And it also gives us access to more of the population, and also different types of people. When it comes to panels, Rick touched on earlier that at Research Opinions they have a panel, and Field Initiatives will operate a panel as well called the Brainpoint. Once you've collected and captured the key data about that person and that respondent and their surrounding in terms of family, lifestyle and stage and so on, it's fairly straightforward for us to be able to try and narrow the right type of people down for the research that you require depending on your criteria. You can do this at a click of a mouse in effect within your database program that you're running. And beyond that, all you have to do is just screen the person in order to make sure that they actually fit. And there might be some additional criteria that your client has specified that you might not be able to screen for on your database, but at least it does the bulk of the work for you, and then you get all you have to do is just screen for those additional criteria. I mean, we believe this is a hugely beneficial tool in recruiting fast turnaround projects that we're getting nowadays. It seems like end clients seem to have shorter deadlines. That means our clients seem to have shorter deadlines, and that means we're giving shorter deadlines to recruiters in the field to recruit. And online is one way of being able to handle this pressure of shorter deadlines. Social networks and forums are also highly valuable tools, we find. In order to recruit the right type of respondents, they need to be used and harvested going forward. You might think, how do you use a forum to recruit respondents? But at Field Initiatives, we have a client who we do a lot of recruitment for. They specialise in electrical analysing equipment that is used in the industrial world by electricians, engineers, and so on. And initially, when we first started working with the client, we thought, how are we going to get hold of these people? But there are open forums out there that you can try and use and utilise to try and target these type of respondents. The other social networks, brands have access to thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people at their fingertips via their websites, Facebook pages, Twitter pages, and so on. So we can harvest these tools as well to try and get access to those people at short notice in some instances. I mean, in effect, these people are no more going to tweet or post to a timeline away for us to try and get hold of them. In our experience, social networking and social network tools are also important in keeping communication with the respondents. As we mentioned earlier, it's easier sometimes to get hold of a respondent on a Facebook page rather than actually trying to speak to them. But of course, with the power of line comes the issue of quality control.
Is the lights gone up?
Yeah, sure. Right. While online can give us the ability to turn around recruitment significantly quickly, we have to take care and time in pre-checking respondents fully before we recruit them for research. Some people may fear that by recruiting online we lose that ability to screen respondents properly, or we lose that, that personal touch that a recruiter would have with the respondent. For FI, at Field Initiatives, we use a pre-check telephone conversation which is conducted by an experienced and a trained recruiter to do this. Basically, in effect, Kath mentioned having almost like a project manager when they had that panel exercise running yesterday. So we have trained and qualified recruiters that are in effect becoming their project buddy. So it's quite important to try and keep in contact with these people, whether it's when you're doing the pre-screening, whether it's the communication afterwards, and emailing them. So this person almost becomes like a point of contact throughout that research phase. This not only helps us to ensure that recruitment meets the required quality standards that are sought after by researchers and clients alike, but we're also able to keep the respondent fully informed of how the research is progressing, and we're able to keep in contact with them. Online recruitment also brings with it challenges of attendance. Field recruitment has always traditionally enjoyed far better rate of attendance compared to telephone and online, for example. In our experience, what happens is when you have that real contact with the respondent, and that bond has built up with the pre-check or the person that you've been communicating with, it's harder for them not to just turn up at research. Although we do suggest that over-recruits are still necessary. In fields you might just recruit 8 respondents and expect all 8 to turn up, but with telephone and online, traditionally you have to over-recruit by a couple of respondents. But I mean, this is not as bad as some online agencies have quoted you to recruit 18 and 16 respondents to make sure that 8 respondents turn up to a group. And like, you're thinking, how are we going to deal with these costs of the incentives if everybody turns up? And what if nobody turns up? They can't give you, sometimes they're not able to give you a guarantee that they'll get people there. In our opinion, online recruitment also enables to build improved quality procedures and quality controls. At FI, what it allows us to do is automatically populate our attendance, respondent attendance database, allowing us to monitor and keep an eye on the repeat history of respondents in a similar way that research opinions have their own database, where they can see the history of the respondent and what they might have done in the past in terms of research. This makes the thorny issue of repeat attendance easier to manage for us. Our attendance database also allows us to migrate profiles that are filled in by field recruiters into our system, hence allowing us to check when field recruiters recruited a particular respondent, whether they have a history of respondents, what was the subject that they last took part in. And in effect what happens is sometimes you have respondents that are on multiple recruiters' databases, so it might not be a repeat attendance respondent from that same recruiter, it might be by another recruiter. In our opinion, digital technologies are not just about recruiting respondents online, but also moving the whole research industry forward and the recruitment industry forward, and taking things, doing things digitally in order to make life easier, not only for us, but also for our clients and recruiters. Sometimes recruiters will call us and ask us, oh, I'm not sure if this respondent, I've recruited them in the past, and if they've done anything in the last 6 months, can you check them for me before I call up the respondent and try and recruit them? Other tools such as email, social media, and SMS confirmations we found are really effective when we're recruiting online in terms of maximizing attendance rates. They can be sent timely. before the research, reminding the respondents about the incentives, the fact that the opinions are highly valued at the group, and of course the clincher is the refreshments that they're going to be getting at the group. We found are always, I think it goes like this: incentives, refreshments, and maybe meeting up other people and giving their views and opinions. Also, the other thing that we've discovered is SMS confirmations are also a last way of finding last-minute dropouts. So, like, you know, we will send an SMS confirmation 24 hours before the research or on the day of the research, just to check everybody's got the details. Many people have forgotten the email, they've gone to work, they can't get in, or they've forgotten their confirmation at home, they printed it, they can't get access to it, they deleted the email. So SMS confirmation, just reminding about the time, the date, the venue, and the fact that yes, can you attend, yes, no attendance text is really important, because obviously things happen in life and emergencies come up and you can't attend. And this gives us the opportunity to go back to our client and say, look, we might have an issue of one person not attending. Would you like us to try and re-recruit? In some instances, they're quite happy for not all 8 to show. They might be happy with 6 or 7 respondents in the group. So a simple attendance text like a yes or no confirmation is really important, we find, with online recruitment. In effect, what we're doing is trying to ensure that just as it's hard for a respondent to let down a recruiter that they might know, or they might have gone on the recruiter's database via a friend, so you don't want to let down the friend or the recruiter and not just turn up at the group. The fact that they've had all this personal communication with one of our project managers or one of the people that they've been speaking to, it's hard for them not to let us down at the last minute. And I think that's the issue with a lot of online recruitment, whereby we're just not sure whether the respondents are going to show.
Sorry, I'm having some issues. Right, so now that we've looked into the past and considered the present, let me allow me to take you into the future. Now, before I go into this is a collection of thoughts that we gathered when interviewing industry professionals. So this isn't fact or what we believe is 100% going to happen. This is just from the research that we conducted for this paper. So here's the future landscape. First of all, let's look at the future of proving it. Across Europe and the rest of the world in research, proving it is standard practice. So we believe that in the future it will be a natural progression that all research in the UK will need identification checks of all respondents at the recruitment phase and at the research moderation phase. Now, there has been talks in the UK of a DNA database, and while this is highly controversial, as you know, and may not come about, ID checks will be as standard for UK research in the future. So what does this mean for us? It means that at the recruitment stage, all respondents are going to have to be happy to take part in these kind of ID checks. And we believe that by maintaining clear and continuous communication with all our respondents, that this will be a natural progression for us. On a similar note, social grades will almost certainly not exist as they do now. There has been a huge shift in spending per C1s and C2s in recent times, as you all know. There has been calls even now that these social grades, as they stand, are becoming irrelevant and need to be rethought. We already embrace alternative questions to occupation, such as income-related questions or attitude statements to find the real respondents that people need. What about the impact of technology in the future? The current buzzword in marketing, QR codes, as you see in the middle there, or the future equivalent of them will be used as standard for recruitment in the future. For example, if recruiting medical patients, you may have QR codes strategically positioned in medical bays. Now, all respondents will have to do is scan these with their phone, and a recruitment app will be able to work out if they're suitable to go along to research or not. So how will this be possible? We picture smartphones in the future to be superphones, which act as everything from your bank card to your identification. We've already seen moves towards this with NFC chips in phones, where you can already use them as like a mobile chipping pin for banking. So, this recruitment app, which will obviously have asked permission from the respondent, will be able to trawl through their kind of purchase history, browser history, and so on, anonymously to find out if these respondents are correct for the research taking place. Then, when perceived that this app would ask the respondent if they wish to take place, it would obviously inform them of how they'd be incentivised, and so on. And then we envisaged that it would give timely reminders to do certain tasks or attend certain sessions, maybe with a vibration in the app. We always embrace new technology, and we already use interactive questions in our scripted screeners. But obviously, this is an area that has a lot to improve upon and a lot to learn in. Group locations will no longer exist for the most part. All face-to-face communication will be done virtually using highly sophisticated facial recognition software, which will be able to tell the research team in real time how passionate or truthful respondents are being about the things they're saying. With the power of holograms, respondents may simply be hologrammed to the researcher or vice versa. Now, the power of holograms is illustrated by this picture on the left here, where the performer on the left, Snoop Dogg, is real, and the performer on the right, Tupac, is obviously not, it's a hologram. Now, what this means is, in the future, we will no longer be organising groups to take place in viewing facilities or training rooms or hotels. We will instead be booking virtual space, virtual rooms on websites developed in the future. And this will bring a fresh set of challenges, as we no longer have to worry about physical transport of respondents to research sessions. Instead, we'll have to worry about whether they have all the equipment, and they turn up and there are no technological hitches with them attending the online sessions. All questionnaires, written questionnaires, will be a thing of the past. If respondents aren't recruited through these tailor-made recruitment apps I spoke about earlier, they will instead be recruited through gamification, which will be fun and interactive little games that you can play. And the way that you play them or react to them will determine whether you're suitable to come along to research sessions. As I've already spoke about, we already embrace things like gamification by using interactive questions and screeners, but these will hopefully become a lot more fun in the future. The future will, of course, also bring with it many challenges. For example, there is a trend within our culture that suspicion is on the increase of people we don't know and organisations we don't know, as people have become more aware of scams, and there have been so many stories in the news about scams and all that you all know about. Additionally, a large amount of recruitment in the future, as we've been talking about, will be done with less face-to-face communication, reassurance, not even a phone call. It will be done largely online. Creative and homework tasks will become even more involved than they are now. For example, while research tasks which are rare in our industry at the present day, such as having cameras set up in a respondent's home to be filmed 24 hours a day, may become the norm in the future. And we don't doubt that research will exist in the future where respondents have to be viewed for year-long periods to have their life monitored. This is because we believe research in the future will become an ongoing and continuous approach. It won't be how it is now, where there's a clear before, moderation, and after task. It will instead be an ongoing process where it's difficult to blur the lines between beginning, middle, and end. Now we know that in order for this homogeneous approach to research to work, that briefing and so on has to be even clearer than it is now. And respondents have to be absolutely clear at all times what they're doing, what's expected of them. They also have to enjoy research as much as possible. It has to be as accessible as we can make it, instead of alienating them using new technology and so on. Fresh respondents, you may think, will be a problem in the future if research continues to grow into an extremely large entity that I think we all believe it will. However, we believe that by us approaching these new methods of recruitment online and so on, that the pool of respondents will become so much larger in the future that we don't personally believe fresh respondents will be an issue. How will incentivising work in the future? It has been claimed recently that in the future the world will entirely run on a system of credit. We won't have physical money anymore. But what this means is no more handing out envelopes with cash at groups and so on. Instead, we envisage that perhaps on this recruitment app they simply enter a code if they've done a research session and they'd be automatically credited their bank account. And this would obviously make it easier for respondents and less hassle for us. On top of this, we already embrace alternative methods to cash, such as PayPal or Amazon vouchers. Obviously, you can't use client-related vouchers or anything like that, but we're already investigating those. So what about the future of communications within qualitative recruitment? In the future, SMS will be outdated. It's beginning to become outdated now. And all communications with respondents will be done either through social media or through apps. So I'll draw together some conclusions now. So with this picture of the future that I've just discussed, it is clear that much more will be required of respondents in the future. Creative and homework tasks will become more prominent. Methodologies will become more pervasive, and superior technology will mean people's entire backgrounds and histories and habits and everything can be accessed instantly. Combine this with the lack of face-to-face communication in the digital world, and we believe that there will always be the need for the human touch in recruitment, for reassurance and encouragement to respondents. There is simply no substitution for human bonds when it comes to instilling confidence and commitment in our industry. The future may seem like a scary place, but to quote Abraham Lincoln, the best thing about the future is that it comes one day at a time.
Thank you, Vipul. Thank you, Ray. It's great.
We hope it was thought-provoking, and just as a warning that some of the future content comes from some eccentric researchers, should I say. So you might not necessarily agree with that, but that's what some people out there think.
Vipul and Ray will be around for questions. I'm just slightly conscious that we're running a little bit behind and people will have trains to get and stuff, I know. So, a well-deserved break, I think, guys. Coffee and cake, surprisingly, up on the 3rd floor. So, the finale back here at 12 for an hour. Thanks.
Yeah.